Hello, and welcome to the final episode of In a Flash, a flash fiction reading series by Sweetycat Press. I'm Dave Gregory, and today I'll be closing out our series with a story called Old Sarge by Steve Carr. Steve is, of course, the founder of Sweetycat Press, and he is also the co-sponsor of today's reading. Old Sarge. Terrence was the last in line. The last one to enter the prison shack, Barracks 5. The thudding of prisoners' boots on the wood floor reverberated through the shack, shaking loose the dirt that seeped through hairline spaces between boards in the roof and settled on the rafters. The dust storm the night before had covered the earth for miles around the prison with a layer of powdery gray soil. Noisily, the other prisoners shouted and hollered at each other, at the injustices of the world, as they stopped at their bunks, kicked off their boots, and stripped off their black and white striped uniforms. Naked, in their wake, the stench of their sweat hung in the air like a noxious cloud as they filed into the showers at the far end of the shack. Left to himself, Terrence sat on his bunk and pulled on the piece of twine that was tied around his neck and extended down his chest. He slowly raised, above the top button of his shirt, the blunt head and flickering tongue of Old Sarge, a black and white striped king snake, tied to the other end of the twine. The remaining 3 feet of the snake remained coiled around Terrence's torso. "You doing okay, Old Sarge?" Terrence said to the snake, that looked up at him and fixed its black, bead-like eyes on his face. Terrence ran the tip of his finger along the scaly back of Old Sarge as the snake raised more of its body out of the top of Terrence's shirt. "I bet you're as thirsty and hot as I am, huh?" He reached beneath his cot and pulled out a wood crate and lifted its lid. The crate was filled with straw and a tin cake pan filled with water. He unbuttoned his shirt and gently unwrapped the remainder of Old Sarge from his body, untied the twine from around the snake, and laid Old Sarge in the pan of water. "You stay out of trouble now, Old Sarge," he said to it, and then lowered the lid and pushed the crate back under his cot. Terrence, Sawbone, and Ricky sat on the wood steps of Barracks 5 and stared up at the bands of gold and purple that added stripes to the twilight sky. Old Sarge slithered around the tattoos of cobras, rattlesnakes, and copperheads on Terrence's left forearm. The steady din from inside the shack was similar to that of the hum of horseflies and gnats that buzzed around the 3 men's heads. From far-off distance, the baying of a hound echoed across the drought-stricken landscape. Sawbone turned his attention from the shifting colors of the sky to Old Sarge. The snake had formed a sleeve with its entire body covering most of Terrence's arm. "Terrence, if I didn't know better, I'd say that old snake is in love with you," he said. Through his missing front teeth, Ricky cackled, "Who ever heard of a snake being in love?" "He just trusts me, that's all," Terrence replied. "Going on 3 years now. I've fed him a field mouse every few weeks, given him water and a comfortable place to live, so he knows he can depend on me." Sawbone stood and stretched. "That new guard, Mattis, that's taking Boss Flute's place, may not like you keeping a pet. Hear tell, Mattis is very fond of the power those stripes on his arm patch give him," he said. "What you going to do then?" Terrence ran his fingers down Old Sarge's back. "Just as the sergeant who kept me alive while I was fighting in the war used to say, wait until you actually see the enemy before you start shaking in your boots." Old Sarge dangled, writhing and wriggling, from Mattis's hand that was clasped tightly around the base of the snake's head. "Pets ain't allowed," Mattis bellowed from near the fence that encircled the prison shacks. "Don't you dare hurt him!" Terence said through clenched teeth, his powerful fists raised, readied. He, Sawbone, and Ricky stood barefoot in the dirt, wearing only their prison-issued boxer shorts. Sawbone and Ricky held on to Terence to keep him from rushing at the guard. "I ain't going to hurt it. Just throw it back where it belongs, with the rest of nature," Mattis replied. He tossed old Sarge over the fence into the cracked, dry earth. Old Sarge lay motionless, bathed in moonlight for several moments before raising its head and then slithering off toward a patch of sunburnt scrub grass. "Mattis, this weather ain't fit for any creature to try to survive in," Terence hissed. Mattis stepped up to Terence and jabbed him with the end of his billy club. "Show me some respect and call me boss, or you'll spend a few nights in the box. Get back to bed now." He walked away, headed back to the house that the guards shared. Terence pulled away from his friend's grasp and went to the fence, looking for old Sarge. "Don't you worry about nothing, my friend," he called out. "You can still depend on me." The next night, when everyone was asleep and the guards were in their house, Terence carried the cake pan filled with water out to the fence. He sat down in the dirt and whispered, "Come on, old Sarge. I ain't forgot about you." After some time, and thinking old Sarge was gone forever, he saw the snake's white stripes suddenly appear, gleaming in the moonlight as it crept out of the grass. It came to the fence, slid under it, and climbed into the pan. "We ain't got much, but we got each other," Terence said as he splashed water onto the snake's back. The end. I'm Dave Gregory one last time for Sweetycat Press. And that was Old Sarge by Steve Carr, who is also the co-sponsor of today's reading and the founder of Sweetycat Press. I hope you've enjoyed this series as much as I have. Thank you for watching and listening. I also wanted to close with a special note to Steve and all the authors who contributed work to the 20 episodes of this series. Thank you so much for creating great stories for me to read. Respect.